You're listening to the Joe Rogan Show. Real sports, real talk.
All right, guys, excited to have rapper Zuby on from the UK. I discovered him on the Joe Rogan Show, and then I started looking into his music. And I admit, I listen to your music, Zuby, when I'm working out. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you on, man.
That's awesome, man. Happy to be here. Here.
Yeah, man. So you're out in the UK now, and a little bit about you. You're a rapper. I saw you on Joe Rogan. You've done some cool things on social media. I like your music. Can you tell people a little bit about yourself, kind of give us some background, and we could dive into a conversation about life right now, man? It's been a crazy world.
Yeah, sure thing. Okay, so my name is Zuby. I'm an independent rapper, author, podcaster, and coach. I do a whole bunch of different things. I was born in the UK. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. When I was there, I went to an international/American school from kindergarten up until 5th grade. So if you're wondering where my accent is from and why I don't sound like a typical Brit, that is why. My family background is originally from Nigeria. And I released my first album in 2006 independently. I've sold tens of thousands of albums, totally 100% independently, DIY. I wrote and released my first book last year, which is a fitness book called Strong Advice, which is now sold several thousand copies, again, independently. And I also run my own podcast, which is called Real Talk with Zuby. And yeah, I've done a lot of things before that, but people know me for a lot of different things, whether it's through my music or it's through my social media or my podcast, etc. I'm just someone who tries to inspire people.
Yeah, what I liked about you is I think there's some things that relate with me. It's that entrepreneurial spirit, and you're kind of doing this, I think, independently, and I'm doing it from blood, sweat, and tears. Took Instagram, cornered the market for fantasy football, branching out now into this. So again, I saw some similarities, and I learned more about you through your music and rap. So if you guys want to listen to it, I recommend go on Spotify. I look up Zuby and I listen. A couple great songs on there that I really like. And again, Perseverance is one of my favorite. And I like Okay Dude, obviously. I think that's one of your most famous ones, right?
Yeah, that's my most recent single. I put that out last year, and I'm gonna start actually recording as we make this. I'm gonna start recording my next album in 6 days, actually. So I guess we could say "Okay, Dude" is the first single from it. But yeah, the new album's gonna be crazy, man. Like I'm super excited about it. I've more than 10x my audience since my last album came out. So this one is just gonna hit on a whole different level, and musically, lyrically, everything, message, I think it's my strongest one.
Yeah, I was listening to other YouTube videos that had you on, asking you how you got on Joe Rogan. I kind of know, but can you kind of explain how you kind of got on Joe Rogan? And since you got on there, has that really propelled you? Has that really given you a lot of momentum and steam in regards to kind of like a snowball effect? People discovered you. Like, that's kind of where I saw you.
Yeah.
So is that really helping the career a lot? And how did you get on there, please?
Yeah, sure. So back in February 2019, I posted a video of me doing a 230 kilo deadlift. And I wrote a caption saying that, I keep hearing about how biological men have no strength advantage over women. So watch me destroy the British women's deadlift record without trying. P.S. I identified as a woman while lifting the weight. Don't be a bigot. And I tweeted this out there. At the time, I had about 19,000 followers. And I just put it out there, thinking it was something that would be quite funny, and, it'll get a couple likes and retweets and whatever. And this thing blew up. It blew up. It went crazy. The video's now got, I think, 3.3 million views just on Twitter. But this thing went everywhere. It went viral all over the world. It got seen by millions and millions upon millions of people. And that just brought a lot of attention my way. And then through that gateway, people discovered my other stuff. People discovered my podcast. People discovered my music. People discovered my other ideas as a sort of social commentator and a general intellectual. So I just started gaining thousands upon thousands of new followers. And that included people like Joe Rogan, right? I ended up getting in the UK and the USA, just being invited onto all these different shows and podcasts and programs, etc., because people realized, okay, this is a guy he's got some interesting stuff to say, and he's doing some interesting things. So that was really what created the snowball effect. I mean, by the time I got on Joe Rogan, I think I already had over 100,000. I'd already gone from 19,000 to 100,000 followers on Twitter by the time that I did that podcast. And then at that same week, I also did the Rubin Report. I did the Ben Shapiro show. I was on Fox News. And throughout I was in the USA for over 2 months. I went to 10 different cities and just had all these opportunities out there. Of course, all of this is pre-pandemic when we were still allowed to do these things. And yeah, it was really that tweet that opened the door for thousands of people to discover me all over the world. Prior to that, I was, I had a fan base, especially over here in the UK through my music, but that one catalyst really just blew the doors open. And it's so funny that 9-second video that had nothing to even do with my music and the main stuff I do is what so many people ended up discovering me through. But the world happens in mysterious ways.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's just that one piece of content that helps you explode onto the scene. With me, the mainstream's kind of, avoiding me a little bit now because I'm kind of the heel of the fantasy football industry. The thing is, when a player sucks on the field, I say, hey, that player sucked, right? So a lot of people take offense. I've had, do you watch football? Do you know NFL football really well?
No, not well at all.
Well, I had athletes like top running backs come in and say they want to fight me and box me. It's been a lot of drama. If you follow my page, I think we're following each other on Instagram, but you may or may not be tuned out because a lot of people follow me that are friends and stuff that I know, but they just kind of tune out because they don't know much about fantasy. But I've kind of like, instead of just giving fantasy advice, I've broadened my audience saying, hey man, here I'm boxing my basement. Let's go Josh Jacobs from the Vegas Raiders, right? So again, it's just, I've got a lot of, they come onto my page like, because they make fun of fantasy football, but fantasy football is huge. There's like 60 million people play it. And what happens is these other people that play, these fans, these armchair quarterbacks go in and tell the player they had a terrible performance, and what ends up happening is these athletes get offended and it's just too much, and then they lash out and say, I hate your fantasy team. It's crazy. So I stick up for the fantasy community. So that's where I've kind of had this bad rap with players lately. It's a lot of drama, but again, it's maybe that one piece of content that gets out and gets the attention. It kind of helps you break through. But the cool thing with you is it's like a lot of people get these viral videos, but they don't have an established brand. Whereas you've got the podcast, you've got the rapping career, you've got all this stuff, you've got the personality, you've got the brand, you've got the foundation. This propels you. With me, again, I got the foundation as well. So when I get something like that, that's going to keep me going instead of just, I'm like a kind of a one-hit wonder. Here I am, and there I go, right?
Yeah.
So
that's 100%,
that's huge.
man. Yeah, no, I mean, all the work that I did in the decade plus prior to that breakthrough moment is what led to the fact that, it wasn't just an overnight flash in the pan thing that went viral for a couple days and everyone forgot about. My audience continues to grow. My numbers of everything continue to grow. My sales continue to grow. And, there are thousands of people now all over the world who are connected to me and who love and appreciate and are inspired by what I'm doing. And that's amazing. I'm so happy about that. That's what I've been pushing for such a long time. And I know that that's just going to continue to grow from now on. So I'm extremely excited. I mean, if I want to get hype, I just think about my own future. I'm working on creating my future, but things are on the right path and they're on the right trajectory. And it's past a certain watershed now where it's like, okay, I can really, truly see the impact that I'm having on people. So like I said, with this new album, with any future books that I'm going to put out, etc., it's like the audience is there now. People know who Zuby is. They know what I'm about. Not everybody likes me, but those who like me tend to love me. And I'm good with that.
Now, when you identified as a female, I mean, obviously that was a joke, right? So,
well, who knows? Who knows?
You didn't actually break the record. Was this more of a joke? Like, did you actually break the record physically? Like, it wasn't documented. Like, I don't understand this.
It wasn't documented because, I just put the tweet out there. I mean, the video wasn't from like a sanctioned competition. The video was just from one of my training sessions. I just happened to have it on my phone. So yeah, some people think that I, formally entered the record into the books. I didn't do that. But I was just making a point on the absurdity of some of the arguments that people make, and so I just kind of flipped the logic on them, and just applied the logic that they do to this whole sort of gender theory argument, and it was sort of a checkmate maneuver because nobody could. There are sort of two ways to go about it, right? Either you have to say that I'm not actually a woman just because I said I am, which underlines their own theories and definitions.
Yeah.
Or they have to say that, okay, Zuby did actually break the British women's deadlift record. So it's like, so, certain people who don't want to accept either of those, but it's like, well, it's one of the two.
Well, the thing is, did you get a lot of hate from that? Because you know how everybody's sensitive. And I know, again, I learned a lot about you through your songs and lyrics. So I'm also an 80s baby, right? So I grew up a little bit tougher than the way things are today. And I feel society's soft. I can talk to you about this for hours. I talk to this about my friends, what a joke things are now, how people get so offended, cancel culture, all this BS that's going on. Yeah. So did you get a lot of hate from that? Oh, how could you do that? And again, you can't get hate because other people are doing it, right?
No, I couldn't. I mean, look, I didn't get a lot of hate at all. Because there was no comeback to it. Like the way I framed it, there was no comeback, right? Because like I said, if they start saying that I'm not actually a woman, I can call them transphobes.
Right.
Right, I can say that they're being transphobic, right? We've been told, it's been drummed into us for the past several years that a woman is anybody who identifies as a woman,
right?
And a man is anybody who identifies as a man. Do I personally believe that is correct? No, it is incorrect. But that's what the people who propose these gender theories have been telling everyone. So I said, hey, I identify as a woman.
Right.
Right. And then I went and I did what I did. So by your own definition, I am a woman, and therefore I broke the record. Right. So, and to deny me of that, right, I can use all the arguments that they like to sling around all day. And it's as simple as that, a lot of times people try to use logic and reason to get someone out of a position that they didn't reach through logic and reason. And that generally doesn't work. It's much better to, it's better to use their own logic, right? It's better to run with logic, and by using the logic and using satire, you can highlight why what they're saying doesn't make sense in a way that they can't challenge it. But no, the vast majority of people, 99.5% of people were in approval. In fact, even transgender people who, and the ones who message me or who follow me, whatever, they also thought it was hilarious. The people who were offended by it in general were not even people who themselves were transgender or whatever. They were just sort of the SJWs who lurk on Twitter, who want to be offended all the time, and they're constantly looking for things that they're offended by, even if they don't know why it's offensive. They'll try to claim it is. But yeah, it was the point was made, and it lives on. It's created the sort of in-joke with my whole audience now that on Tuesdays I'm actually a woman. So here we are. Yeah.
Ironically, I was just before this show came on, there was an article that came up that even like transgender, how do you, I don't even know how this works, but I guess trying to wrap my head around this. So men that want to be women, right? Basically, even after a year of hormone changes, still outperform women.
Of course.
Even after I read that after a year study.
You don't need to do a study to do that. I could have told you that when I was like 7 years old. Like, of course, puberty is a thing. Bone density is a thing. Height and muscular structure is a thing. If I jump on estrogen for 1 year, you're going to tell me like that I'm now the equivalent of someone who's been a female their entire life? Of course not. That's absurd, right? I'm still going to maintain some of 34 years of being male is not going to suddenly evaporate off of a year's hormone treatments. There's no way that you can level the playing field in that regard. I mean, it's also funny because have you noticed that it's always about like transgender athletes competing in women's competition, but like the other side of the equation never comes up for obvious reasons.
It's so double standards. It's so hypocritical. Everything about this is hypocritical. Everything is crazy about the world. And then we saw the Ellen Page thing, whatever her name is, Elliot Page. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's my theory on this. I don't care if people get offended or not. If you take your pants down, you have one or two parts. Now, I understand if I'm a dude and I want to be a woman, cool, go do that. You are more feminine in your masculinity or whatever you want to call it, more masculine. Some women are more masculine, some men are more feminine. So go do whatever you feel and gravitate to. That's okay. But to say you're an it, I just can't wrap my head around that. And I seriously have a problem with that. All these, it doesn't make sense to me because again, I'm a believer of God myself. And I just think it's male or female. And again, if you are an it, what does an it create? So an it has sex with an it. And what do you create? A double it? Like, I don't understand it.
It doesn't. Trying to understand it is a good way to give yourself an aneurysm because it's not about logic. It's not about science. It's not about reason. And it's funny because a lot of the people who propose this stuff, right, they'll think that you're crazy for believing in God or believing in some sort of supernatural creator. But then they'll be the ones who think that, there are all these sexes or genders that exist beyond male and female. Like all of a sudden, right? Like all of a sudden, our entire lives, it was men and women. And now suddenly you can be non-binary and there's all these new pronouns or whatever. And you can just self-declare. Doesn't matter if I have a penis and testicles and a beard. I can just say I'm a woman. Not only can I say I'm a woman, but everyone must now fully, wholeheartedly just accept that I'm a woman, and suddenly Zuby the man has disappeared and my pronouns change and I've now suddenly magically always been a woman. It doesn't. Everyone knows it doesn't make sense. It's one of those emperor's new clothes situations, right? People want to like toe the line of political correctness and they don't want to say that something doesn't make sense, but it doesn't make sense. Like, look, if someone has gender dysphoria And for whatever reason, you know, they're a grown adult and they feel like they want to do, you know, they want to live their life a certain way or take certain hormones or whatever, you know. Do I totally understand it? No, I don't totally understand it. But there's a lot of things I don't understand in the world. But if that's what someone wants to do and they've made that, you know, choice and informed decision, then, you know, God bless you. You know, live your life how you see fit. The problem is when people try to encroach on the freedom of others, right? Whether that's freedom of speech, whether that's, you know, basic fairness in, you know, female sports or in certain female private areas, etc. You know, in terms of someone just wanting to be a certain way, it's like, you know, most people don't care. Most people are quite apathetic. They're just like, okay, you know, I don't totally get that thing, but if that's what makes you happy, you know, go ahead, right? If someone wants to believe that the sky is yellow, they're welcome to believe the sky is yellow, right? If they try to force me to accept that the sky is yellow and deny what I can see with my own eyes and what I can, the logic and reason I can apply that tells me that the sky is not in fact yellow, then that's where they're crossing into the line, right? In general, people, you know, people can, it's the same. Look, we're both believers in God, right? There's a difference between me or you saying that, you know, we believe in God, or you're a Christian and you believe Jesus is the Messiah, and us forcing other people, trying to force other people to believe that, right? That's where it's crossing the line. It's like, okay, look, I can believe that, and you know, I can talk about why I believe it. You know, if someone wants to thinks I'm wrong, or you know what, or we can have a conversation. But if I go around, you know, trying to use the force of the government, or you know, just sort of bullying tactics or whatever to try to force other people to believe what I believe, whether that's religious, it's political, it's ideological, whatever, you know, people don't tend to like that. People don't tend to like that. And you know, and it's also not empathetic nor compassionate. People like to talk about empathy and kindness and compassion, et cetera. It's like, well, if you want to have empathy, you know, that is a two-way street. That is a two-way street. And you can't expect me to be 100% tolerant of your view if you're not going to be tolerant of my view, right? When we have a disagreement on something, you know, tolerance is being able to, you know, tolerate and put up with and live with opinions that are different to yours and views that are different to yours. It's not being able to tolerate views that are identical to yours, or which are, you know, and trying to silence everything that goes against it. That's not how it works. And if we live in a free society in the UK and the USA, etc., then we have to understand that that's how it is. You know, sometimes people will be offended. Sometimes people will have their feelings hurt. Sometimes people will have their ideas challenged, and sometimes they'll change their mind. Sometimes they won't. And that's fine. You know, human beings are messy. There's billions of us out there, and we have to have a way that we can actually get on with each other, because no two of us are identical.
So I think we agree, and a lot of people agree. I think even Joe Rogan. So if a male wants to be a female, that's fine. But if you want to enter female sports as a male, that doesn't.
Yeah, look. A male cannot become a female. That's not a thing.
Right.
That's not. It's not biologically, scientifically possible. You can get as like
surgery.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but still, like, you know, if you undergo surgery, do you now have a functioning vagina and womb? Can you bear children? No, you can't. Right? No. Every chromosome in your body is still XY. So, you know, you can't actually switch from one to the other. That's magic. From a scientific perspective, it doesn't make sense, right? Someone can alter themselves significantly in a way that they appear to be the other sex, or maybe that's what it really is. And most people would be like, okay, you know, most people are going to call someone by like whatever they look like. That's the reality of it. If someone looks like a woman, right, most people are going to say like, oh, that's a woman. You know, the pronoun thing it's also part of why the pronoun thing is silly. Number one, if you're talking to someone directly, you don't use their pronouns. But also, secondly, most people are just default to whatever the person looks like. If someone looks like a woman, you're just going to default to saying she, her, whatever, if you're referring to them. If the person looks like a male, you're going to say he, him, whatever. And trying to force or compel people to do what you want. It's a game of power that's masked as kindness and compassion. But a lot of us can see through that, right? As soon as you're trying to like force other people to call you things on demand, you know, I think it goes beyond the basic line of respect, especially if you're trying to legislate it. It goes beyond the basic line of respect and decency to, you know, authoritarianism, because people can agree or disagree on what they think is like kind or correct or even polite. But, you know, sometimes there's a gray area in that. There's a gray area, and it's not as simple as, okay, anything that hurts my feelings or could potentially hurt anybody's feelings is not permissible. and it is not allowed, etc. Right? Like we are both we're both Christians, but I think we would both be very opposed to putting in blasphemy laws in our countries, right? And wanting to imprison someone for or punish someone for saying that they don't believe in God or they don't believe in Jesus, etc. Right? We would be totally opposed to that.
Right.
And that should run across different ideologies, political beliefs, religions, etc. Right? Otherwise, you're going back. You're really going backwards. Like that's truly regressive if you're going in the opposite direction to that. You know, if you have free speech, you got to have free speech.
Well, I have a problem with a man dressing as a woman going into washrooms too, or bathrooms, whatever you want to call them in the States. But in Canada, they call them washrooms. So I have a mother, a sister, a daughter, and a wife. If someone wants to put on a wig and say identify as a female and go into a washroom, how are they going to monitor this stuff? Well, you can't. You've offended me now. I want to use this washroom. So there's going to be a lot of problems if this continues like this, I would think.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, look. Also, another thing is like we're talking about such a small minority of people here.
It is, yeah.
This is the thing. It's crazy how much like airtime this subject even gets when you're talking about such a tiny minority of people, right? Who, in most cases, like I know more, just because I know more people than most people do, I also know more trans people than most people know zero transgender people.
Right. I don't know any.
Most people don't know a single transgender person, right? I've probably encountered and engaged with, 10 plus, 10, 15 on like a decent level, right? I've had like a conversation with, etc. Right? And what I gather is most of them, vast majority, they just want to be left alone and treated decently. Just be treated decently. You know, they don't want to be looked at as like being like super like weird or like crazy or whatever. You know, they're just like, they have this thing and they're like, okay, this is what I feel comfortable with. And it's like, okay, simple as that, right? Like I'll treat you like I treat other people, right? Simple as that, right? I was going to do that anyway, right? I don't need instructions. I don't need instructions on it. And so, sure, there are like little scenarios where it's like, okay, there needs to be something like really clear here. But in most cases, like I say, with the exception of these like really rare, the female sport issue, and like you said, the sort of bathroom or the prison issue or whatever, those are ones where like the rubber kind of meets the road and you need to have like a clear policy. But in most cases, I just find it amazing that of all the things that are going on in the world, or all the things going on in the USA, or all the things going on in the UK, et cetera, that like this issue in the past decade or so has become like such a gigantic frontier of activism and arguments and this and that, where I'm like, look, I think most of these things have a pretty simple solution.
Right.
And also it's such a small thing that we shouldn't be, well, I say it's a small thing in one way. It's a big thing in another way. Because if you're trying to force people, if you're trying to ram certain laws down people's throats, or you're trying to like force people to believe something which is objectively false or scientifically incorrect, then that's a problem, right? And that's kind of a Trojan horse for a lot of other things. So in some ways it's a small thing. In other ways it is actually a big thing. It's a bigger deal than some people, actually kind of think. But I think this reflects on the fact that we maybe we just don't have enough real problems. I thought we did, but maybe the modern West has just become so comfortable that people are picking very weird battles to fight and hills to die on, etc. Just because we sort of have that luxury.
There's too much to talk about here, too little time, but there's the whole narrative now with the COVID and all this stuff going on. I understand that everyone's got their own point of views, but I just don't see us winning this as a society. I think the government is in power here. And it's not even a conspiracy anymore. I think it's actually happening. I just want to get your thought process on it, and I kind of share my thoughts on this. You got to wear these masks now. Originally, when we first started wearing them, it was kind of a ridiculous idea. And it's like, okay, what do I have to wear? I don't want to wear one. And even a guy like me who wants to fight this is kind of almost kind of like, I just want to wear it because I don't really want to fight the Walmart greeter or the security guard at Walmart and debate it. Like I've really got to the point where like I even go with my kids once in a while. We don't go out much because everything's kind of a lockdown in the Toronto area as well.
Okay.
Which is crazy. Closing down gyms. No one's talking about building your health, which we're going to talk about health and fitness with you as well, since there's a lot to talk about. Like I said, it's like no one's talking about building your immune system, building your health, focusing on that. We're just talking about staying home, you know, in your own bacteria here, covering your face. There's no real proof that masks 100% work. And then everything's being censored online, government control. And then, okay, the mask I can deal with, but then it's this whole vaccine thing. I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to take it. I'm just not going to take it. I trust in my immune system to cover this thing. I'm one of those guys. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. So my kids took their initial shots, mumps, measles, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I took the hepatitis vaccine when I was in elementary school because I didn't know better. But anyway, either way, I personally will not take this. I will fight this till the end. But I just feel that what they said in Ontario, Canada here is that basically they're going to start restricting things. I think it's going to start off with you can't go into like a hospital to see a relative, or you can't go to a restaurant. Eventually, then airlines are going to say you need a passport. They're
going to create a they're going to create a gigantic black market.
I don't like this. This is not what I like. And I've reached a point where I'm right now recession proofing and vaccine proofing my life. So I'm already looking at homeschooling for the children.
Yep.
I'm going to try to find activities in sports to keep them socialized, because I don't think it's fair that they're not going to school to socialize. That's the social aspect. Because again, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't even like the education system, to be honest with you. So I'm okay with them homeschool, because what they teach you, the most stuff I've learned in my life, because I've been through breakups. So nobody taught me how to get over a broken heart. Nobody had taught me how to do my tax. Nobody had told me how to start a business, how to be an entrepreneur, how to make good money. Nobody taught me this. And I'm actually, they taught me Pythagorean theorem and trigonometry, which I never used. Right. And why do I Shakespeare? I mean, it's good, I guess you're learning, but it's bad grammar. Right. So the point I'm trying to make is like, I've got an online brand. I'm very fortunate. I'm grateful to God. I'm grateful to the powers that be. And I'm grateful for my inner strength that I've got a brand that I can monetize, which I have been selling draft kits and YouTube videos and doing that online. I don't have to leave my house, my home studio. So what I'm trying to say is, I just think we're ahead of scary times, and there's a reason for this. I'm trying to figure out the reason. Maybe we can kind of mastermind and figure out the reason here. But the mRNA vaccine, they've never really used it in humans and stuff like that. I'm not a doctor. I don't know all the details, but I've been doing some research in this. If I don't have to put it in me, why would I do it? I'm just not going to do it. I'm not doing it. What are your thoughts on all this?
Dude, look, my thoughts are very simple, right? People should have freedom to, if they like, there should never be a situation where you are forced to inject something into your body. Right?
They're not saying we're going to force you. We're not going to force you, Zuby. We're not forcing you.
We're gonna block you out of society if you choose not to. It's the same thing. The same thing, right? So, look, you shouldn't even need to. You shouldn't even need to have a conversation about that. You see what I mean, right? Like, just like I shouldn't need to argue against if the government decides that they're banning red T-shirts tomorrow,
right?
And like, I like wearing red T-shirts, or they ban blue caps and they don't want you to wear it, right? Like, it's not their business. It's not their business, right? All of our lives, human beings have been able to make choices, right? In terms of governmental laws, right? Yeah, you can't take people's stuff. You can't hurt people. You can't kill people, right? You can't do things that are like actively destructive to people, right? Yeah. But like, this virus has well over a 99% survival rate, over 99.9% if you're young and healthy. So firstly, why, look, if people want to take the vaccine, take the vaccine. I'm not even like, I think 3 people in my family have taken it, right? Some of us will take it. Some of us won't. Maybe some will take it later down the line, whatever. Like, it's an individual choice, right? There's no real logical scientific reason like a healthy 25-year-old should take the COVID vaccine in the same way that, maybe if you're like 80 years old and you have some, issues, you should probably take it, right? It's risk and reward. I've never had the flu in my entire life. I've never had it in
2001 or something. It's been 20 years at least.
I've never had the flu, and I've never had a flu vaccine, right?
Neither have I.
Sure. I understand COVID is more contagious than the flu, but it's like, okay, but look, if other people are getting vaccinated, why do you even, if the vaccine is effective, whether or not I get vaccinated or you get vaccinated shouldn't matter. The person who's fearful of COVID or who is at risk, they can take the vaccine, right? Simple as that. I'm not telling people not to take it. I'm not telling people to take it. I'm certainly not trying to force people to take it. It's my view is very simple. It's freedom. Like, you live in a free world, right? You don't have the freedom to go out there and like rob people and shoot people, but you've got the freedom to, exist and move around in the world and run your business and raise your children and generally, for the most part, do what you want. And that's how it should be, right? Just because there's some, there's a pandemic, or, I mean, look, there's a lot of like, dodgy stuff around this anyway. But regardless of the situation, it doesn't mean that the government should suddenly be allowed to, just go full fascist on you. Right.
But it's crazy because you're seeing these restaurants close down. They're taking out restaurants. It's, gyms are closed down. There's limits here, but Costco's open. It's just a crazy world. And again, if I sit down here and I think about it, I get angry, and I've reached a point where I'm just done being angry. So I'm just going to work out, focus on me, focus on my family, focus on friends like you, just talk to people and just help people that want to grow and really advance their life. But I'm just sickened by the amount of control. Because again, that's why I'm an entrepreneur, because I had bosses. I had really shitty bosses that I didn't want to work for, that told me and dictated what I had to do. I will not be under anybody's control. And it just bothers me that you have to do this, you have to do that. And I understand the virus is real. And I understand we want to protect the elderly. And I understand all of these things. But if I'm not sick, I'm not going to get you sick. Exactly. And it's the fear. It's the fear mongering.
It's the fear, man. It's the fear.
It's constant fear. It's like every headline is sensationalized. Oh, this rampant virus is, claiming the lives of, and it's just fear.
In the UK now, we've got this so-called new mutant strain.
Yes, a new one.
They make it sound like it's new, as if like the cold and influenza viruses don't change every year.
They do that every year. They always do that. Thanksgiving time, they always did that with the viruses, the flu virus.
So why you can get the cold multiple times, right? Because the virus evolves, it changes. So people are acting like, new mutant strain, but they frame it in a way that the average person freaks out, right? It freaks them out, mutant strain. Like that sounds like, oh my gosh, like this virus is evolving and it's going to start turning people into zombies.
Turn into a Ninja Turtle or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone, one of the worst, there's a lot of things that are terrible about this, that it's hard to say what the worst thing is. But, the fact that we're treating that everybody is being treated as if they're just like a pathogen. Yeah. Right? Everyone is just being treated like a disease vector. Even it doesn't matter if you're healthy. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter your lifestyle, whatever. They're just acting like everybody is diseased, right? Even if you get the vaccine, you're still supposed to wear the mask and socially distance, right? And it's like, well, what's the point? What's the point of the vaccine if you still have to do everything? It's just like, it's so authoritarian. And to me, it's so, from early, it's been so obvious that the intention of this goes beyond a simple virus and public health. That's been so obvious to me.
Yes, it's obvious.
From early, right? And people are, it's almost like, I think COVID-19 is the world's fastest growing religion now, right? But it's the worst religion too, because there's nothing positive about it. It's just like you just have like the true believers, and nothing you say, you can point them to studies, you can show them they will just go with whatever fits their narrative, right? And they can't be wrong. It doesn't matter. You can show them a study saying, okay, this study shows that there's not much evidence that masks actually like are helping here, and they reject that. You can show the damage caused from lockdowns. They reject it. You can show them that this thing has well over a 99% survival rate. They will reject that data. They'll say, no, it's 4%. It's 4% death rate. 90, And I'm like, no, it's not, right? It's a 4% death rate if you're over 70, I believe. It's around 4%.
Right.
So 1 in 20, 1 in 20 something. So yeah, sure. If you're over 70, especially if you have comorbidities, this is not a disease that you want to be getting. But this whole one size fits all model on all levels is so asinine. It's just asinine. I mean, I'm here in the UK, dude. Technically, it's illegal for me to leave my apartment unless I have like a specific reason.
Wow.
Right? That's insane. We're a year into this now. Right? This has been going on for almost a year. This started with 2 weeks to slow the spread. This started with a 2-week lockdown, I think back in March last year, saying, okay, we need to make sure the NHS doesn't get overwhelmed and we need enough time to get in the PPE. And most people were like, okay, fair enough. That makes sense. Don't need to go full draconian on me. Like, okay, I get that. If it'll help my fellow person, I'll generally chill at home for 2 weeks. Most people were okay with that. And then each time people comply, they just squeeze in more. They squeeze in harder. They squeeze in harder. They squeeze in harder. And it's that boiling the frog analogy.
Yes.
Where, now we're at this stage
they're
where
weaning you in.
Yeah. Look, 6 months ago, I was talking about how they're going to like try to bring in mandatory vaccines and how they'll do it, how they'll try to prevent people traveling if you don't have this, or they'll prevent you from doing this, and people, you're being a conspiracy theorist. They're not going to do that. This is going to be over by Christmas. I'm like, dude, bro, like we're in January 2021 now, and people are openly talking about some of these ideas that I was saying that they're going to do. right?
It's like
Everything.
The old
Dude,
anaconda where it strangles you and you breathe
honestly,
in, and then it gets tighter every time, and it's
people
just
are
like.
still in denial, man. People
And
are still
okay,
in
so
denial.
I like chess, and we're always thinking steps ahead. And I think you and I are smarter than the main consensus here. But so the first step was obviously let's wean them in. Let's make them believe it's. I believed it for the first 2 weeks. And to be honest with you, what I'm not scared of, but I'm fearful because I have young kids. Like if I could have this, I deal with it. I'm a little concerned because they're smaller immune system. But what I'm concerned about is obviously the uncertainty of where it came from. They say it's China, all this stuff. I still don't know if it's manufactured, if there's different strains of it, how that strain affects different people. I'm still like, I still don't want this either manufactured virus or wherever it came from in my system. I just don't want it in my system. So that's what I'm preventing. So I still wash my hands. I sanitize my groceries just for the sake of the kids. So even me, who's not a scared person, is a little fearful for my family just because of the uncertainty of it. But I guess maybe that's what they want you to believe. So what are the next steps? So step one was let's put the mask on. Step two, vaccine. But we can't tell people it's mandatory. But we're going to kind of like we're going to plant the seed that if they don't take it, there may be repercussions so that so it's not a shock that when we do this. So we're going to wean you into the vaccine. We're going to, get everybody in. We're going to, get 85% vaccinated, right? And those guys like you and I, maybe that don't want to get vaccinated. Now we're going to start penetrating those guys. And then next thing you know, okay, let's get rid of money because money's dirty. So everything is digital currency. Like what are the next steps you think after the vaccine? Where are we going here?
Oh boy, look, man, it depends on what people do. The government they're going to push it as far as they can, right? It is, if people don't stand up for themselves, if like you have two sort of streams of thought on this, right? You have the people who think that by complying, you're going to get out of this, right? Look, everyone just follow the rules. Everyone put your mask on, socially distance, stay at home, whatever, and this will be over, right? You have the people who think that. And then you have the people like myself who like, look, I'm not going to, I'm not going to advocate for anything illegal on a podcast, but stop complying.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
Right? Like as long as you comply, they're going to, like you said, the anaconda, they're going to keep squeezing in. Like we've already seen this. I'm not making this up. Like we've been here for almost a year now. Right? Like how long do people know? You know what, Zuby? Actually, you're kind of right. Like, they're not relenting, are they? Right? They keep go, it's like, look, they're not letting up, right? All they're talking, and then they're talking about, we may need to do this until 2025. We might need to do this policy until Christmas 2022. I'm like, wait, what are you guys talking about? I mean, look.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
I'm at the stage where like for a while, I'm like, look, do what you can. I mean, I think for me, I'm gonna be leaving the country when I can. Like I can't. I think for me, I've already been, thinking of getting out of the UK, but I think
where are you gonna go? Sweden? Like where can you go that you're like, I have some freedom? Where do you go?
I'm gonna work that out. But I'm in a position to move, so I'm going to see what I can do with that. I'm gonna explore that idea because
you're digital as well, so you got that flexibility. We're fortunate.
Yeah, I've got a lot of flexibility, man, and I don't have a family, so I can kind of go where I want, do what I want, So yeah, I don't know. Like, look, I always say people need to save themselves, but like you literally might need to save yourself from the government on this one, because I do not personally believe that they're certainly not operating in my best interest, and I don't believe that they're operating in most people's best interest here, regardless of how it's framed. No. And that doesn't mean that, cause people, and one of the most annoying things about this whole thing is how binary, how people create these false dichotomies, right? So someone will listen to what I'm saying and they'll be like, oh, Zuby is saying that the virus is a hoax. It's like, from the beginning, I never said the virus was a hoax. I never said it was a hoax. I've got 3 family members who work for the NHS, right? I've never said that the virus is a hoax. The virus is real. It's there, right? I know 4 people who have died from it, right? It's there. So, but people are like, oh, either you think it's like super deadly and we have to lock down and put in draconian restrictions and all this authoritarian measures. Either you're that, or, oh, you think it's a hoax and you think that people shouldn't do anything and that we should run around licking lampposts and kissing strangers. Like, I'm like, no, I just think that human beings, adults, can make their decisions. You can make decisions for your family. You have children. You decide, okay, this is what I think is best for myself and my family. You might need to look, just based on that, you should probably take more precautions than I should.
Right.
It makes sense because I live by myself. I live by myself. I already am socially distancing, right? I do not have other people who are like around me or whatever. I don't have dependents. So my own behavior shouldn't be the same as my parents who are in their 60s and 70s, which should not be the same as someone like yourself who, even the area that you live in, right? Depending on what country and what city, et cetera, you're in, you know, there are places that have had like basically no cases and no deaths, and they're as draconian with their measures as places which have like, you know, tons of them. And then if you're looking at the US, you have some states which are fully open where you can go to the nightclub and you can go to music concerts. And then you have places which are locked down and you can't go to church and you can't go to the gym. And you look at the numbers and it's like, okay, I'm not seeing a lot of evidence that this place with all these restrictions is faring better than the place that's open. So it raises all these questions, which, you know, they keep trying to silence and censor. And, you know, there's certain data that they don't want out there and whatever. And I'm like, look, if you're that scared for the truth to come out, then that makes me even more skeptical, right? If you don't want me to ask certain questions, if you call me names for asking certain questions, if you're trying to call everybody who, you know, has some trepidation about the vaccine or who just personally doesn't want to take it, if you're calling them all anti-vaxxers, it's like, that's not what it is. Like, most people have taken multiple vaccines throughout their life and, you know, don't have a problem with it. You have children, you've probably vaccinated your children against certain diseases, right? So you not wanting to take one specific one for something with that, let's be real, like, it's virtually impossible. It's near impossible for you to die of COVID, given like your age and your health status. So why, you know, if you want to take it, as I've said, go ahead. No problem.
I just think it's sketchy.
If you don't want to,
it's a money grab. It's sketchy. It's just, there's so many things about that I don't trust right now. And the fact that it's all worldwide. And what scares me the most here is that the fact that, again, this is real. So it's a real pandemic. It's a real virus. But what if a real virus, let's say a flesh-eating disease came in, or we turn into zombies or something like what, like they're like, we're already like maxed out. Like, why aren't we spending money on making our hospitals more secure?
Dude.
And like, we could go on about this all day.
Like, so many questions, and it's so frustrating because if you don't want to perpetuate just the standard mainstream generic narrative about this whole thing and what should be done, then the way you get framed as a bad guy, or you want to kill people, you don't care about lives, you want everybody to, it's like, dude, just buzz off, man. Like, I'm so tired of all that. Like, you know, I just, at this stage, I just flip it on people. I'm like, look, well, if you're advocating lockdowns, then you want people to die of cancer. You want people to die of suicide. You want millions of people to lose their jobs. You want trillions of debt passed on to the next. I'm like, look, I can play that card too, right? I can play that card too. So how about, regardless of your position, how about we stop trying to make each person out to be like some supervillain who suddenly, like, you know, my entire life, I never wanted everybody to die, but apparently like in the past year, I hate everyone's grandma and I want to give them all COVID. It's like, oh, did I flip like that? No, I didn't flip. I'm not the one who switched, right? So I'm just looking at the picture as a whole, and I'm thinking of a nuanced approach that's not one size fits all, that just crushes the economy and crushes small businesses and crushes people's physical health and crushes people's mental health. You know, in the UK right now, you're punishing 65 million people for, you know, have people even asked the elderly people if they want all this? No. Have they asked them? Right? Everyone's like, oh no, it's not for you. It's not about you. It's about these people. I'm like, interesting. The elderly people maybe I have some, you know, maybe my circle is sort of pre-selected, but the elderly people I know are not in favor of the lockdowns, right? They're in favor of young people being able to live and work and go to school and go to university and earn money and have relationships. They're in favor of that, right? And they can handle themselves. They don't need everybody else to protect them, especially now that the vaccine is here, right? So if they want to take it, you know, there'll be some elderly people who don't even want to take the vaccine, and that is their choice. If they want to and they feel that they're at risk, you know, I would say, yeah, they should probably take it. But it's, you know, it's really annoying when people just sort of, people have all these like straw man arguments and this whole killing your I find it funny that it's always grandma as well. It's like, it's never even grandpa, right? Like, no one cares about killing grandpa, but you know, grandma.
But it's turning people on each other. I went to the gas station a couple weeks ago and I just accidentally forgot. I pumped the gas and I actually went in without my mask. The lady looks at me and she just looked like a 45-year-old woman, gas attendant. You're going to kill us all.
Is that what she said?
Yeah. You're
that, oh my gosh.
Go back out and put your mask on. I'm like, just check me out. I'm not going to go back to my car and put my mask on.
That's so nuts.
Yeah. You're going to kill us all. I mean, this is the narrative.
So,
they're just gobbling
they've
up
broken people, man.
media.
Dude, the media has broken people.
It's
People
sad.
have people are his. Some people, there's a percentage of the population now. I don't know what it is. It could be like between 20 and it could be somewhere between 20 and 50% who are just, their minds just been broken by this thing. Like they've been fully propagandized. Like they think that they see a group of people together without math, and it makes them feel physical anger. They feel rage. They seethe when they see, oh my gosh, look at those people eating their Christmas dinner together. I
Yeah.
hate those people. Oh my gosh, my neighbor's having a party. I want to call the cops. Oh my gosh, this man came in the store and I can see his face. It's insanity. It's
sad.
insane, right? It's sad. It's very, very sad because this went from initially being something that could have potentially brought people together, but now it's just created new divisions, right? You already had the split between right and left, Republican, Democrat,
Yes.
red, blue, you already had all these fractures, and now you have like the pro-maskers versus the anti-maskers, the pro-vaxxers versus the anti-vaxxers, the pro-lockdown people versus the anti-lockdown people, and it's funny how it's even split along political partisan lines. And for me, look, the thing with me is I'm very libertarian in terms of my general political views. And
Right.
my simple thing is, look, this whole time, I am never the one who's trying to force anybody to do anything, right? I'm not the one who's trying to use the force and the threat of government or the police to force any behavior upon anybody or any business,
Right.
etc. Right? So my problem is with the people who are doing that, right? So the people who are, look, if someone wants to wear a mask, I will never attack someone in the street or accost somebody on the street or online for wearing a mask, right? I might laugh at them if I see them wearing it alone, driving in their car.
Yeah, I
It's
see
silly.
that all the time.
Yeah, I'll laugh at it. But, even if they want to do that, God bless them. Like if they want to wear it on a Zoom call, they're welcome to, right? I might chuckle at it, but they can do it. But if someone wants to attack me for not wearing a mask, or they want to insult me, or they want to accost me for not wearing a mask, or they want to accost someone, they want to attack someone for trying to keep their gym open, or they want to attack somebody for trying to, then look, that's where I that's where I draw a line. I'm like, no, like you're acting like you have the moral high ground here, but I do not believe that, I don't even think they're doing this for the greater good. I don't even think the motive is necessarily always positive, right? There are certain people with just very authoritarian tendencies in every society who get off on telling people what to do, who get off on being control freaks. And this has been a gift to them. They love this. They absolutely love this because now they have the perfect excuse to tell strangers what to do, tell people how to behave, tell people how to dress, what to wear, to cover up their faces. They have to how far apart they should stand. They have this, they've been given a gift. So I think like this whole thing is like the antithesis to anyone who's libertarian minded, but to someone who's more authoritarian minded, it's like, man, this is beautiful. They love the lockdowns. They love the masks. They love yelling at people on Twitter. They love the whole thing, man, especially if they're still getting paid.
Yeah, my friend's an MMA fighter and he has a problem with authority, and he was in an elevator and he was coming down and he's like, a guy in his 50s went up to him. He's like, yeah, put your mask on. He's like, do I tell you what to eat? Do I tell you what to do? Don't tell me what to do. He's like, you better put your mask on. They almost had it out. I mean, it's division.
That's really interesting. In the UK, no one says jack.
Really?
No one says jack to me. I don't know if that's just me personally, and no one says anything.
Wow.
Right?
Well, I was at the checkout the other day and it was really hot. I was like half an hour of doing grocery shopping with the family. So I had the mask actually a little bit, it came off my nose a little bit. So I go to the checkout, and between me and the cashier, she had her mask on, and there was a guard. There's a Walmart. So I had this plastic guard. And then I had my little nose. She's like, put your thing back on. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. And she's like, okay, well, you're not going to get served. I'm like, she's like, I'm going to tell the manager on you. I'm like, what are we in grade school? I'm like, call the manager. So the manager comes up. He's a young guy. He's like, I'm like, man, I'm not putting my mask on. I've got a medical condition. Oh, if you got a medical condition, that's fine. She's like, well, I'm not going to serve him. I'm like, okay, fine. Give me someone else. I don't want this idiot anyway. So they brought in this other guy serving. Like, if I really wanted to get her sick, I would have coughed on my hands, put it all over the product. She's checking out the stuff. Of course. Like, it's just crazy, man. This whole
maybe in the US, it's, in the UK, they're not even in the UK, they're not even supposed to approach you.
Really?
No, because it's insensitive to people who have potential medical conditions. Well,
here you basically, if you have sorry to interrupt, but if you have a medical condition, you could say that and you don't have to prove it because it's private. So technically,
it's the same. Here, like if someone does approach you, just say I'm exempt. That's it.
Yeah,
and end of discussion.
But you're
End
looked
of
at
discussion.
weird. It's just like
No,
your
no,
question.
that's interesting. I think it depends on what location you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. It
In
depends
in
on
the
who
U
it is.
certainly in the UK where I live anyway, like, most people are masking, but if someone isn't, no one says anything. No, people don't even look at them weird. Like,
Yeah.
people are just more. Maybe I live in a good city, but
Yeah.
like I've seen some of these videos and stuff going out online of people being like accosted and attacked and yelling at each other, or whatever. And I'm like, man, that's weird. But that's not my own experience here.
Okay, so to go off on a tangent, so we know what the problem is. What do we do? So you're a health guy, you've got a
Yeah.
book. So can you tell us about your book, what it helps people with? Because again, I'll tell you my problem, and maybe people have the same thing. Once you get your 30s, your metabolism takes a shit. So even though I'm working out hard, I'm working out here, and I also want to talk about two things: not only fitness, but also how to prevent to help your immune system a little bit. Maybe you can help a little bit with that. So I have a little bit of excess fat on my stomach. I walk around like 220. I used to walk around 190 when I was to work out, but as soon as I hit 34, my metabolism took a shit. I'm working out pretty hard. I'm doing interval training, hitting the bag. But then again, usually I'll have a piece of chocolate, a cup of ginger ale here and there. I don't want to eat like I'm anorexic or like I'm losing weight. Or I'm preparing for a fight because I did MMA before, where I'm having egg whites in the morning, and then oatmeal, and then like celery and cucumbers at night. Like, I don't want to eat like that. I want to have a piece of chocolate once in a while, and a little bit of ginger ale once or 3 times a week, and a beer once a week if I want. How do I maintain, how do you get that balance? Does your book answer this?
Yes,
Like,
absolutely. Absolutely. Like, when you were saying this, I was like, get my book. My book. 'Cause- yeah, no, 100%. I'm a big advocate of flexible dieting. There's a huge gray area between those two things that you were talking about, chocolate and ginger ale versus like egg whites and broccoli. Like, there's a big middle ground. there's a big middle ground.
Ginger ale and chocolate. That's kind of my outlet. And I had pizza yesterday, and I always feel guilty after I eat. So what does the book say? Does it give you a nutrition plan? Like, what's it all about?
So it's not a cookie cutter plan, but what it is it explains, it gives people the real fundamentals on mindset, nutrition, and on training. So it shows people how to eat towards their goals. So rather than telling people, it's not like a set diet. I don't advocate set diets where it's like, okay, breakfast, eat this, lunch, eat that, dinner, eat that.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, no, this is how you calculate how many calories that you actually need. Right. And if you're trying to gain weight, then you need to eat this many more. Right. If you're trying to lose weight, you need to make sure you're hitting these numbers. Right. This is the breakdown, protein, carbohydrates, fats. This is how you structure your own diet around your own lifestyle and your own personal needs, because your needs as someone who's in their 30s and is 220 are not the same as a female who's 20 years old who weighs 120 pounds. Right. You shouldn't be consuming the same amount of food in the same quantities, et cetera. So regardless of who is reading my book, they will know for themselves personally what they need to do, whatever their goal is, whether they're trying to maintain, they're trying to build, they're trying to lose. And then I also talk about mindset and motivation. And then, of course, I talk about training principles as well. So it's not a book that's just like, okay, this is the Zuby diet, or this is just the Zuby training program. It's because I want to give people long-term results, not just like, it's not a diet. It's not like a diet you do for 6 weeks. It's not like, this is Zuby's diet book, do this for 4 weeks.
You're teaching us how to fish, basically.
Yes, exactly. Teaching people how to fish, not just giving them a fish. Very much. So I've been training for, more than half my life now. I've been training for 17 years. But yeah, it's all the stuff that I wish I knew when I first started.
Right.
I've been through a lot of trial and error, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of diet cycles, etc. And I've learned, what works and what matters and what doesn't work and what doesn't matter. So I've just distilled that into a short, concise, easy to read guide available on ebook, audiobook, or paperback. And people can just check that out.
It's Audible. How do I find? Can I get an Audible?
It's not on Audible. No.
Oh, okay. Because that's where I usually get. So how do I get it? Because I tried to find you. I even went on Amazon.
Yeah. Okay. It's not on Amazon. No. TeamZuby.
That was my issue. So how do I get it?
So go to teamzuby.com.
Okay.
TeamZuby.
Okay.
.com, and it is available right there. You can also get it on gumroad.com. If you go on any of my socials, the link is always there. But teamzuby.com.
Strong Advice. That one.
Strong Advice. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. Yeah, so I'll have to get that. Is it a long book? Could I get?
No, it's a short book. No,
that's
it's
what
a short book.
Because I get I have a short attention span. So I'm more an audio guy.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've got the audio as well. You can even get the ebook and the audio together.
Okay, I'll just get the book. So it can
Nice.
ship to Canada and the US, because everyone gets confused when you see that UK dollar.
Yeah, yeah. It either if you want a paperback, yeah, they ship out globally. As we record this, there's a lot of delays with the shipping because of this whole situation.
Of course.
But it will get there.
Everything. So okay. And then about the immune system, what can I do? So I basically take a multivitamin. I actually alkalize my body, because I did a lot of this. I'm not into him anymore, but Tony Robbins, he talks about alkalize and energize, like, I don't know if you know what Tony Robbins is, but I've been, when I first got into entrepreneurship, I did a couple of seminars. He's all about alkalizing, don't take the flu shot, do all this stuff. So he kind of built a foundation of entrepreneurship for me. I don't follow him anymore, because I kind of see what he's all about. It's all about, give me the mighty dollar, that's what I find with these guru guys. But so I alkalize, I get a green drink, which covers all my greens, gives me a good foundation. I get my, some omega-3s, try to get that in there. And I try to get my multivitamin in there, and maybe a vitamin C. So what can we do to strengthen our immune system right now? Vitamin D, zinc, like any suggestions as a quick suggestions of what we can do?
Look, the first thing I'm going to say is I am not an expert on the immune system, but from what I've gathered and from what I know, vitamin C and vitamin D are big ones. I think zinc would help as well, but certainly vitamin D and vitamin C, especially when it comes to, any respiratory illness, those certainly help to protect against it, especially with vitamin D, given that we're in a winter climate, especially if you're somewhere dark or if you're somewhere with darker skin, you're much more likely to be vitamin D deficient. I think the vast majority of Black people are vitamin D deficient. Okay. So certainly, especially if you're darker skin or if you're not going outside much, you definitely want to be supplementing with vitamin D3. And then beyond that, making sure you get some sunlight every day, exercise every day, and eat a healthy, balanced diet. And then on top of that, you can be washing your hands and doing whatever else you feel is necessary. But if you take care of your immune system, then that's really building at the foundation rather than sort of tackling the branches.
Right. Well, I won't take too much more of your time. I appreciate the talk, man. Get the book, guys. So where do they follow you? Spotify, is that the best place?
If you want my music, I'm on everything. Just search Zuby, Z-U-B-Y. I'm on Spotify, iTunes, whatever you listen on. And then in terms of social media, you can find me at Zuby Music on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all the same handle, Zuby Music. You can also check out my podcast, Real Talk with Zuby, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all those platforms as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna link it below here. And also I'm gonna do a lot of story modes with quotes from your lyrics. I do that when I'm working out, because I usually take I'm trying to get off this pre-workout thing, but I do a lot of pre-workouts. So I get the pre-workout and I'm motivated and I hate the competition. So I do that, and then I listen to music, and then I just Zuby lyrics, and I chop it up, and I'm gonna put it in my story mode more often, because I like some of the lyrics. I can relate to it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Now they want to label me, right?
Okay, dude.
They want to put shame. They always want to put shame on the counselor.
It's true.
So we appreciate you, man. Thank you for being on, man. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. God bless.
All right. Thanks.